Okay, we're live here on YouTube, LinkedIn. We'll be getting on Instagram and TikTok here in just a second. And there's Instagram. Should be TikTok here. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Friday live show. This runs every Friday at 7 p.m. Central. I'm your host, John Lawyer. And my background's as a soldier for years in the desert in different combat zones, and now I'm a spiritual seeker. And my goal is to bring people together so we can have open-minded and free exchanges and conversations about spirituality, philosophy, religion, and try to make the world a better place and understand it better. And each week we bring on different co-hosts, and this is actually a pretty special week because we actually have two co-hosts at one time. And I'd like to introduce you to Will Rodriguez and Karen Endsley. And they're the host of the Skeptic Metaphysicians podcast. And, guys, I'm not going to read your whole bio. I think it's better when people talk about themselves.
Wait, what?
So
No. I was promised a bio read.
Right? I was short. So I'm going to pass it to you guys to say this is who we are and this is what we do.
Karen?
Nope, you go first.
Oh, darn it. I'm Will, in case you're confused. We are the host of Skeptic Metaphysicians. The show is a fun, tongue-in-cheek exploration into all things spiritual metaphysics. I started it when I was losing my ever-loving mind during COVID. I looked at myself in the mirror, didn't like who I was, so I was seeking. Like you, I was seeking. And over the course of doing these interviews with people, I started helping or trying to find a way to put the pieces together. And then I found the biggest piece that was missing was her. So I brought her onto the show, and it made the show so much better that I'm embarrassed when anyone hears the shows that it was just me by myself for a while. But then together, we created a really cool dynamic because I'm like this pragmatic guy, like grew up in the New York area. I can't just believe something just because someone says something to me. I gotta find a way to wrap my mind around it. I can't just say, oh, you're psychic. Yeah. Okay. Tell me more. No, what do you mean you're psychic? Like, how did that come about? What are you hearing? Like, were any drugs involved? That kind of stuff. Whereas Karen has been a lot more open because she knows this stuff is absolutely real. She's experienced it. She lives it. And so she looks at it from a very different perspective. So those two perspectives looking in create a really interesting dynamic in our conversations with our guests. And I've learned a lot through it all. But I'm tired of hogging the conversation, Karen. So you're on.
See, I wanted you to go first because nobody ever wants to start with a Karen. You hear that name, people are turning this off.
Yeah.
But then they're like, oh, but she doesn't have a bob or highlights.
Well, here's the interesting thing. We've got a Karen and a lawyer. I don't know.
Oh,
it's super dangerous.
It's so bad. So,
yeah.
But no, so I think you give me too much credit. It was great with him. You've got, first of all, the content was great, but you've got that voice. He's got this like hello voice, and the chicks dig him.
In the world.
But no, we've been having a lot of fun. It's ironic because, obviously we're married, we live together, we work together in our regular jobs, and we do this together. So we're kind of constantly together, which could be good or bad. But for us, it's actually good. We actually do have other friends as well, but we have found in each other, we found the right partner. So we can be spending all this much time working and playing together and not get sick of each other, not argue. But a lot of that I think has been Will's evolution.
Well, that's true, because I would say probably 4 years ago that wouldn't have been the case. I was not the person I am today. We still had a great relationship, but as I learned to peel away that ego, I learned that there was so much more within our relationship that I was taking for granted that I've discovered, and it's made us so much stronger. It's made my appreciation of what we have so much deeper.
And it has relieved you of that burden of having to be right all the time. It's a heavy load to bear.
Yeah, right. It's a lot of responsibility, right?
Yeah, but and yet it just so happens that I am. So, right, not burdened. Right.
Sure. No, I absolutely love that you guys work together and you're together like almost all the time. Because my wife and I work together, and we worked together even overseas when we were, soldiers in combat and contractors after. And so it's different when you spend 24/7 with someone. And I think it's really great to see other people out there like having that experience, because a lot of couples don't either don't get to have that experience and don't understand how it can be, or can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but-
after COVID, I had so many of my friends going, "Oh my God, thank God my husband's going back to work."
Right.
And so I freelance and he works the regular 9 to 5 thing. And so when they started, he only goes back now, I think 2 days a week. But when they started that, we were like, "Oh, that's a bummer." You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
It's a beautiful thing.
it
Yeah.
is.
But getting back to the fact that a lot of couples don't have that or can't find that, I think it's almost like I don't know if we've just been conditioned that that's not the way marriages are supposed to be to a certain extent. So you hear like buddies all the time, "Oh, my ball and chain," or whatever, and I just never got that because it's just I don't feel that about her. It's always been my partner. It's just
Right.
it's a different dynamic, but there's a stigma behind it, and so people joke around and stuff like that. But I think if you give yourself a chance, you can find a depth and a dimension that is just amazing.
Right.
But you got to be with the right person.
You got to be with the right person.
Right.
Yeah, you got to find the right person. That's what it's all about. Like
Yep.
knowing yourself, knowing other people, and finding that right person that just basically makes you feel kind of whole in the best sort of way.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
Well, you guys are exploring spirituality yourselves, like each individually, and your show dives into it. So I ask most guests, I say, what is spirituality to you? Because it can be so different to different people. So having explored all this, I'm actually really interested to see kind of what each of you says what spirituality is to you.
Well, and you'll be surprised, it's probably different. We have a
That's
lot of
okay.
things we agree on, but we have a lot of things that we disagree on. So, which sometimes surprises people. They're like, "What? You don't believe in this?" But for me, spirituality, it's a connection. It's love. Ultimately it's love. It's that feeling. It pulses through your body, and you just I can't even describe it. It's just like when you feel it, it just shoots out of your pores, and that's when you know that you're connected. You just have this overwhelming desire just to love, to be loved. You see the best in people. You feel more compassionate, or more empathy, I think. I do believe that there is something out there. I can't tell you exactly what it is. I change my mind on what I think fairly regularly. I was raised Catholic, and I still sometimes say Catholic prayers, and sometimes I don't, and sometimes I meditate. And I studied world religions. I have one of my degrees is in anthropology, and so I've kind of cobbled together like the best things for me out of each different belief system, and made my own belief system.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think we're too far apart. Actually, for me, spirituality is a reconnection with who we really are.
Right.
It's a refining of ourselves. So for me, my spiritual path has been a discovering of who I am, and finding a way to, after knowing that I'm so much more than just this 3-dimensional body I'm inhabiting, how can I connect myself to my true essence, my true being, which in my belief system means connecting to the all. Like we are, to me, we're all one. And so it's a connection to that ether that connects us all and makes us who we are, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think that's kind of the difference. You think that we're all one. I think we connect with many and form one out of many, but it's not like you're always like, you're my, we're twin souls. You're half of me. We're the same. That makes me feel like, boy, it'd be really lonely if it's just me out there, just a big, massive me. So I like the thought of there being more than just me.
Well, I firmly believe that I believe we firmly believe that we create our own reality. So whatever you decide, whatever you believe, whatever you know to be your truth is indeed 100% your truth, and that's your reality. The challenge is when someone comes in and says, "Oh, no, this reality is the only reality that could possibly be." That's where we get into challenges. We're into conflict because we know for a fact that there are different realities. Because my favorite story, when someone asked me what I think about spirituality, was told to me when I was in my early 20s. I was just starting to explore these things. The guy was the most balanced, centered human being I'd ever met. And I said, I like, how did you cobble this incredible belief system that gets you so centered all the time? And he says, well, this story is what what has gotten me balanced. What got me to understand how the world works. He said one day God was standing on his mountain of truth. And as he's looking down on the world, he's liking what he sees. So he leans in to get a closer look. But as he does so, he kind of loses his footing a little bit. And as he grabs his footing back, a couple of pebbles from his mountain of truth fall down onto the world. And he's like, uh-oh. And he looks down over the rim of the mountain of truth and look down the world, see what the heck he just did. And he sees all the men and women of the world just running to these pebbles, grabbing them, raising them over their heads and yelling out, I have the truth. When in essence, all they have is a little pebble from the mountain of truth. And knowing that, the fact that you will never know the full truth because all we have is the ability to see what that pebble is in front of us, helps you to remain and maintain humble enough to accept other people's truths. And that's my favorite story.
That's a great story to kind of encapsulate kind of, I very much agree with that and believe in that. And Karen, you talked about studying different world religions and how, you take a little bit from each one and it makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. And Will, you talked about creating our own reality. And I mean, we do definitely create our own reality. I totally jive with that. And it's amazing. And also, we don't have all the answers. And so like what I know today and what I believe in today, that can shift a little bit because when we get more of those kernels of truth from the mountain, then suddenly we have a better picture of this amazing kind of universal puzzle that's in front of us.
Absolutely. And so that's the key, is not to think that pebble that you have is the only thing, because it's not. It's just a small portion of it. So so what we're trying to do on our show is to bring as many of these pebbles together to get
pile them up.
Right. To get them as close as possible to like a fraction of the mountain of truth, knowing that we need to maintain our humility to know that we're never going to collect them all. It's just not going to happen in this lifetime, and that's okay. The fun is in the treasure hunts. Each conversation we have is a new treasure that we uncover that just makes us go, "Oh, that is cool."
Good job.
Thank you. Sorry.
Sorry.
Usually she's the one with the good visuals.
Yeah. No, I like that too, because it is a treasure hunt.
It is.
Because like, each conversation I have is the same way. Like suddenly I know more about the world, but I also know more about myself, right? Because you see everything externally, then you see everything internally, and each conversation kind of gives you perspective on both. And so
no doubt.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that.
Yeah. And in terms of creating our own realities, I don't know how far down the rabbit hole you want to go, but we have had experiences. Well, we've had experiences that have shown that we are, not only do we create reality, but we actually flip from one reality to another in an instant just by making a decision, or sometimes the universe takes it in its own hands and says, you want me to blow your mind? Here you go. Blam, right? We've actually had that happen to us. We were doing an interview on location one day, and in order to do that, we're bringing these microphones with us, and I was setting them up, and the microphone gets attached to the arm with this little nut.
This was crazy.
Yeah, it's this little gold nut. It's about the size of a nickel, and as I'm attaching the microphone to it, we were sitting down, and
I think we were kneeling down or something.
No, we're sitting down. We're sitting down on chairs, and the floor was carpeted, so
really plush.
Right, plush carpet. So I was attaching this nut, and as I was doing that, it slipped out of my hands, and Karen and I both saw the nut fall to the ground, bounce, and vanish. It's like, what the heck? So we were like, okay, on our hands and knees. We were on our hands and knees. The person we were interviewing were on her hands and knees. The people who were in the audience watching, everyone was just searching for.
We searched the whole room. We pulled the cushions out of the couch. We moved furniture. There was a little rock water fountain thing. I took the rocks out. I took the whole thing apart.
Yes.
Nowhere to be found.
Nowhere to be. It just vanished. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess we're gonna have to hold the microphone during the interview. So that's what we did, and it wasn't a great interview. But anyway,
you make it work.
Right at the end of the interview, once we stopped recording, I started breaking everything down. Someone from the audience comes to me and he says, "So I'm being told that you should check your pocket." And I'm like, come on. I was sitting down. You know how when you're sitting down, your jeans pockets, they fold in on itself, so there's no way anything can get in there?
But at first he says, you're going to think I'm crazy.
Right.
And I was told this before you started, but I felt crazy, so I didn't say anything.
Right. So I didn't say anything like that, right? Of course, but to humor her, I said, okay, let me, I put my hands in my pockets and I froze because when I pulled my right hand out of my pocket, lo and behold, that dang nut was in my hand. There is no earthly way, there's no possibility that this thing could have bounced on the floor, bounced up
That
and landed
high.
and it landed in my
And behind
pocket,
you.
which was folded up against my stomach.
And
Right,
it was a super plush carpet, so it didn't really have a lot of. It was more like a.
there's no
fall
way,
and land
no
a
way.
little bit.
But on our way there, we were talking about how we wanted to see. I need to see. I need proof. I need to like. I haven't had a lot of metaphysical or paranormal experiences like a lot of our guests have, and I've like, come on, I want to see it. I want to see it. I want to see it. So the universe said, oh yeah, bam. Like there's no way, and yet that's what happened. Right? I don't think that the universe just like did magic trick and whoop and then put it in my pocket.
Here's your ear.
What I think happened was that the universe said, okay, I'm gonna make you flip, and it flipped me to a universe where I had put it in my pocket instead. Right. And that's firmly what I believe. Now, whether that's the truth or not, it's my truth, and that's what I'm going with.
It's much more fun to believe that.
And there are other things that have happened that are just mind-blowing, but that one happened when we were both together, so that's why I share that.
Well, yeah, that's an amazing story, and I definitely get behind the kind of malleable realities and that, what we're, it's, Descartes said, like, I think, therefore I am, but I feel like it's I'm conscious, therefore I exist, and so depending on where our consciousness goes, kind of where we go, right? So
exactly. Yeah. Now, and this is the pragmatist saying this, right? This is not Karen, who's always felt this is all legit and real and the whole thing. This is a pragmatist. I'm the one saying there's no earthly way this thing got in my pocket, no possible way. And as a pragmatist, it took a really long time for me to actually say. When you are a pragmatist, you always find a plausible answer for what just happened. Right. And I racked my brain trying to find a plausible answer to how that nut got in my pocket. And no matter what I thought of, no matter how I looked at it, there is no way there's just literally no way it could have just materialized in my pocket any other way than the way I'm saying.
Well, if you look at Sherlock Holmes too, right? That sometimes the simplest answer is just the answer. Right. And then you think about it, and when you really look at the universe sometimes, and you've studied spirituality, you've studied religion, you've looked at philosophy, sometimes it gets pretty simple.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that I think that is the key, right? We complicate so much when we can just, Eckhart Tolle talks about the power of now. If we can just live in the moment, in the now, and just allow things to unfold as they're supposed to unfold, our lives would be so much simpler, so much more drama-free, more relaxed, and we would experience more, we would learn more, and we would be in love and in life more. It's just hard when you have that ego stuck in the middle.
Very true.
Yeah, that whole idea of being present, being here now, or the power of now, whether you're reading Tolle or reading like Ram Dass or Michael Singer, right? They're all talking about living in the moment. And it seems so simple, right? It's like, okay, I just be in the moment. I can do that.
Give it
like
a try.
You said, yeah, let's just do it for a minute. Let's just be here in the moment for a minute. That's incredibly difficult. It's just without practice.
If you can do it for a minute, I applaud you, because I think I can do it for maybe 3 seconds before my mind is somewhere else.
Yeah. And I love that you bring up the ego, because we talk about it from time to time on the channel. It's our mind and our ego they're this great thing that keeps us alive. Mm-hmm. Awesome. But at the same time, it overperforms, especially in the modern world, because we're so safe and we're so taken care of in the modern society. We're not having to worry as much about staying alive minute to minute as we used to be. And
it depends on where you live. No, I'm kidding.
And if you,
it's true. No, it's true.
And if you're a PG.
Yeah. There's still tons of parts of the world where it is still more difficult, but the ego still overperforms, compared to probably what we need it to. And so how do we quiet that? How do we be present in the moment? What each of you do to try to kind of bring it back to center and be present in the moment? What's some things that work for you?
Lots of drugs. No, I'm kidding. I don't do drugs. I'm kidding.
Wow.
I'm totally kidding.
I like to look for the small things, or to notice and pay attention to the small things.
Right.
Like if I'm, taking a walk and walking my dog, I look for the small flowers, whether it's on a tree or on the ground. When I'm cooking, I look at the textures and the colors, and I hear the sounds, and those kind of bring me right into it.
Right.
Because sometimes you get overwhelmed by the vastness of everything. So looking at the small things helps
Oh, that's
me,
great.
anyways.
Yeah. See, I struggle with it. I still struggle with it. I meditate. I try to meditate every morning. I've been less now than I have before, but I'm trying to get back into it. My problem is that as soon as I finish meditating, I'm right back into the chaos of it all.
Right.
It's hard for me to bring that mindset into my everyday life. So I've tried gratitude practices. I've tried to look at the little things. I think for me, there's something about solitude, like being alone, that gets me there. Maybe because I'm a very social person, and so I try to connect anywhere I go. I like to connect with people. So when I'm by myself, I'm forced to just connect with me, and that helps me to kind of, okay, all right, this is good. I need to. It helps me refocus a little bit.
And it's ironic because I think, I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I think in a weird way, you're a little bit afraid of being alone too.
Oh, there's no question.
Because he's done a silent retreat. He's gone to a lodge for a few days. He's gone camping, but I have sent him every time. I'm like, I reserved the room, or, we got this, go, because I know how much it helps him. Like sometimes even today, I'm like, you need some alone time. No, stay here. But it's so good for you.
And I think that's probably because the ego in me, right? The responsibilities. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I need to be with the family. I need to protect them. I need to provide for them. So being on my own is kind of selfish. And that's where the thought process is.
Yeah, I think learning to be alone with ourselves. I definitely. There's been times in my life where I've struggled with that. Where, I remember one time I was in Kuwait. My whole unit had left. And I was the only one that kind of left behind. I was with other people, but not anybody I knew, right? So it was very isolated, very lonely. And I remember, the sound of silence.
I love that.
Yeah.
There's something about the sound of silence that I just love, and yet I
Yeah.
hate at the same time.
Yeah, it's a powerful thing. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like you're staring at a blank slate on one perspective, or you're staring at the abyss from another perspective. It's a very kind of amorphous thing, for sure.
And it's interesting. You mentioned Michael Singer. I actually went to his place in Florida. I read his book and just blown away by it.
Oh yeah, lovely book.
Yeah, and I actually went because I do business, and I happen to have an office in that town in Gainesville where he's got his center. So when I was there with it, I went there because he talks about it in the book, how he wrote it. I mean, how he built it with the help of all these people and stuff. So I wanted to experience it. And the first thing he does when you go there is you do a silent meditation. And the sound of silence, the place was packed. In that little the place that he does his talks was full of people, and the silence where all of us were just sitting there in complete silent meditation was intoxicating. It's the only way to put it, right? It just this energy that just built and built, and then when he does this musical thing before he starts talking, and it just generates the energies even more. So when he finally starts talking, he starts talking very quietly, and then builds up. It's just like this. Whoa, it's mind blowing to me. I love it. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm so glad you got to go experience him like firsthand. That's very cool.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And it's free, isn't it?
It is. No, there's no cost. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love Eckhart Tolle, and I think that his book is like I find it like technically instructive. Like it's a beautifully written book, but it's very technical.
It
And
is.
I feel like almost like anyone who reads The Power of Now should read the Untethered Soul at the same time because I feel like they're so complementary to one another. And one's a little bit more poetic and a little more fluid, and one's a little more technical.
Yeah, no, I agree. The Untethered Soul is one of my favorite books. So Karen's sister is the one who turned me on to the book. She read it and she loved it and recommended it to me. I picked it up and I was waiting for them to come. I was in a restaurant waiting for them to come. I had read half the book before they arrived. I was just devoured it. It was when he was talking about needing to silence the voice inside, I immediately resonated because I can't, like, that narrator will not stop. And that's something that Karen finds strange.
Yeah, I've never had that. And so our daughter says that too, that there's like you're narrating your life as you're going through. I'm like, what is that's wow.
Yeah.
That would be stressful.
Yeah. So his talking about that in his book, that was one of the first things he talked about. I was like, oh, yes, he's talking about me. And I just got completely sucked in immediately.
That's interesting. I've met very few people who don't have that narrative that is kind of that ego that's kind of loud. So that I would say that you're in a very low percentage part of society. That's really awesome.
Agreed. Yes. Yeah.
That's
I
a
think that
blessing.
would drive me crazy.
It would. Yes, it does.
It will. It absolutely will drive you crazy.
Does that explain you to me or me to you?
Maybe.
Yeah. No. That's.
I thought that was just a you thing.
No.
It's like a most people thing.
It's a most people. I would say it's a most people thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've identified that Karen actually is an angel on this planet. So that could explain why she doesn't have a narrator, because she is angelic. She's an angelic being that's incarnated on this planet, and therefore doesn't need that narration. Right? She doesn't have that interior dialogue that we have as human souls that are on this planet.
I can buy that. I can definitely get behind that.
Yeah, I've seen her wings. I know for a fact it's true.
Right. So when you guys have been through this amazing journey that you've gone through, what speaks to you the most about what you've learned so far?
Oh gosh. I don't know. It all speaks to me. It's hard to.
Sure.
It's like, what's your favorite color or flavor? Or, boy, because like for example, breath work. I never really thought much of it, and I mean, I didn't know about it, but it wasn't like, oh, let me read about this or learn about this. And then we interviewed someone about it, and he put us through the session, and it blew my mind, And then talking the first time we spoke with a channeler, I'm like, oh, this weird. Feels kind of weird, And now I'm like, oh my God, what else do you have to say? So I guess it's just how much I've changed. I think has been what I've liked the most is the things that. Okay, best example. We had this interview with this guy who has a relationship with a family of big feet, Sasquatches. Anyways, so he sends us this recording, and we're like, he's probably doing this in the bathroom, whatever. But I was so skeptical about this, because how could something be hiding for years and years? And people, I mean, we can go so deep into the ocean and find these little microscopic fish. How could we not find a massive Bigfoot? So that's why I was kind of like, I don't know about this. So then he went on through the interview. We're talking, and he's telling us about his experience. And then he explains to us that Bigfoot is actually an interdimensional being. And I'm like, oh, okay. That makes perfect sense. Whereas before I would have been like, what? So just how, I think that's what I've liked how much I've changed and how much more open I am to things.
Well, she completely stole my answer. But she knew that she was going to, because not in a bad way, but we knew that when I say to people that I am a different person today than I was 4 years ago, I'm not even exaggerating a little bit. I am a completely different person. And I think that's what I've taken to the most in this journey is that I don't even consider myself to be a skeptic anymore. Right. Because I've experienced and I've learned enough to know that this is all absolute real truth. Our audience now, they're the skeptic metaphysicians that we still honor and help them to find a way to pragmatically wrap their minds around it. But when I started the journey in the discovery process, I was very skeptical. I was very skeptical. I think I was probably bordering on the cynical, unfortunately. But now, through the course of the last 4 years we've been doing the show, it has shown me that if you're open, if you just allow yourself to experience the magical, instead of going, this is no way that this could possibly be real. If you're stuck in that mindset, then that's 100% what's going to happen.
Right.
But if you allow yourself to go, okay, I don't know about this stuff, but I'm open to learning it. The moment that I said that to myself, the moment that I said, okay, let's explore this without putting a stop to it or making or needing to have that proof given to me, then things started happening. And I started noticing things, which then made me go, okay, I see you. What else you got? And then allowed myself, and little by little, very incrementally, I've grown to the point where I'm at today. And that would not have happened if I didn't allow myself the possibility that this stuff could be true. And that's the biggest problem with science these days, right? The reason why scientists are like, oh, this is a bull hockey, you can't measure it, so it can't be true. The act of trying to measure something is what makes it not be true. Right?
Yeah, the act of the measurement changes the outcome of the experiment. Right?
Exactly. The act of quantum physics, right? The Schrodinger's cat, right? The act of observing something affects the outcome. The minute you open the box, you're going to know whether the cat is alive or dead. But at the time that the box is there, it's in two different states of being. So your observance creates that reality. It goes in one direction or another. Well, when I decided to open the box with an open mind, it actually changed my reality. And that's what I've taken away the most out of all this. The need to do that.
Yeah. I mean, those are great answers. And I think when you're open to the universe, amazing things happen. I like to say that, right? When we're open to the universe, anything is possible. And we see signs of magic around us. Like magic isn't supernatural. Magic is perfectly natural, because we know that if we're sitting in a conference room and someone that we know that has big energy walks in, they will change the energy of that room for better or worse based on where they're at that day.
No doubt.
And so we can actually see it happen, right? Like we can actually see magic happen in front of us.
And so many things, it's just easy to say, oh, that's a coincidence.
Sure.
But it's so much more beautiful to say it's a miracle.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know? It's a little miracle.
Yeah. And that's the pragmatist, right? That's what the pragmatist always goes to. It's a coincidence. You always find a way to explain it away. But what was it? Was it Arthur C. Clarke or Isaac Asimov or someone said magic? Oh, what did he say? It was like to the primitive person, science is magic or something along those lines. I forgot what the exact quote was, but we have found, look at quantum entanglement. That has been now proven to be legitimate science, quantum physics, where they took a particle apart and they separated it by, I think it's 4 miles, and they affected one particle and measured how long it would take for the other particle to feel the same effects, and it was instantaneous. Which showed that any particle, when it's one and you separate it, no matter how far apart it is, they will always be connected. They will always be entangled. That by itself, if you said that to someone in the 1950s, they would have thought you were on drugs.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, if you'd have told them about the internet, they would have thought you were on drugs.
Well, it's right. So who are we to say that a channeler isn't actually channeling a being or whatever it is? And that's been the biggest change. At first, I was like, come on, give me a break. But now I'm like, okay. And Karen was right. It was super awkward the first couple of times that we talked to a channeler. But now it's like, oh, cool. Well, who are we talking to today?
And I think for you, for whatever reason, you needed so much proof because you were getting proof after proof after proof, from little things to big things, things that you couldn't explain, like the lady with my nails, right? So we're interviewing a psychic, and psychic, or is she a channeler? Okay.
She's a psychic, yeah.
And so it was, the little pre-chat before the interview, and we didn't tell her anything about ourselves. We never really do, and just our names and whatever. But the plan is just to ask her about herself and what she does and how she helps people and whatnot. So we're kind of in a situation like this, just, online. And she says, well, your grandmother's in here. And I'm like, my grandmother? And she's like, yeah, she's here. And I'm like, okay. And I just didn't ask her anything about it. Didn't, further that. So we had our interview and it was fine. She was a very lovely lady. And then Will says, well, I have to know, is her grandmother still here? And she's like, yeah, she's still here.
At the end of the interview.
At the end of the interview, yeah, after it was over. And I said, oh, so what is she like? And she described someone to me that didn't really sound too much like my grandmother. But then she says she has a message for you. And I'm like, okay, what's the message? And I'm thinking it's going to be something like, oh, your children's are going to be fine, or, whatever. And she's like, she wants you to know she likes your nails. Okay. I started crying because like now you don't see my hands, right? But I don't know if you'll be able to see. I don't have my glasses on. Is that clear-ish?
Yeah, we can see them. Yeah, we can
okay, see how they're painted kind of funky with that little, it's called a half moon at the bottom? Yeah. I do that because that's how my grandmother used to do her nails.
And she does it in her honor.
Yeah, and I've been doing it for years. And there was no earthly way this woman could have known that.
Right.
I mean, that's such a random, very specific thing to say. I wasn't talking like this. She wasn't seeing my hands. And even so, I mean, you can't really see what my nails look like, but it was just like, that was a perfect example.
And even if she had seen your nails, to be able to connect it to your grandmother.
Yeah.
Right. It's a very specific person.
Yeah.
But it was, yeah. Yes. The universe has been throwing that stuff at me all the time. And I have chosen to, that's the point. You have to be able to open yourself up to the possibility. If you're not open to it, you're not going to see it.
Well, I think sometimes we're just taught here that you're like a flake or fruity or whatever if you think you're like way out there. But now, fortunately, people are really starting to open up more to the possibilities. And so many people are having experiences. And those are the kind of comments we get on our podcast. The reviews, we get them time and time again. Thank you for helping me feel normal. And that's why we continue with our podcast, because we want people to realize that this is normal. All of this is normal. And the more normal it becomes, I think the better life is going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having conversations, being open, being curious, figuring out what other people have to say about things. Yeah. Then, totally, it is normal. It should be normal. And I think, you mentioned the internet a while ago, but, in the 21st century, we have access to the sum of all human knowledge, and we can actually talk to each other about it. And I think amazing things are kind of happening with that. I have great hope and faith about where we're going, because I feel like we can talk to each other so much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, though, it seems, because there's
absolutely.
there's also a way for us to talk to each other in ways that aren't very kind,
and you can be hidden.
And yes, people hide behind their keyboard all the time. Unfortunately,
get that bravery.
Yeah, I think that, and I used to struggle with this. I mean, it's like that cartoon of that guy that's sitting at his desk, and his wife's like, "Hey, you coming to bed?" And he's like, "No, it's like someone's wrong on the internet, and I'm trying to, explain."
Oh my God! How did you know that about me?
So I know it's
that was me before
him.
I started. I was in a bad place. I was the arguer on the internet. How could you possibly think that? Now I'm like, is that what you think? Oh, okay, cool. Tell me more.
Maybe not tell me more, but okay, cool. Then you walk away.
As I've had my own spiritual kind of journey and understanding and clarity and awakening, whatever you want to call it, I've gotten out of politics, and I don't argue with strangers on the internet anymore. And one, it's so much healthier now.
Yes, indeed, absolutely.
But it's also has enabled me to look at my fellow humans as just that, as humans, and say, I don't care what your politics are. I don't care what your social views are. Like, I can believe that the world should kind of look a certain way, and I can still kind of have some of those base beliefs that are kind of ingrained for me from growing up. But I'm so much more open that I'm able to try to look at the world, yes, from my perspective, but try to at least have some ability to see what other people are seeing.
Yeah. And we're so shaped by our upbringing and by the incidents that happened to us in our lives. One of the best books that I read was The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama. And the thing that stuck with me was, it was like, it was just a short thing that he said, but he was talking about when you're driving down the highway and someone cuts you off, or you're in the grocery store and someone bumps into you. It's like, you don't know, they might have just lost their son in an accident, or they might be rushing to, save their whatever, mother's dying in the hospital. You don't know what they're going through. And so just be glad that you're not in a situation where you're doing this to people. Feel empathy for them. I mean, there is a chance that they're just a jerk, but it has made it so much easier to deal with people that are just angry and mad all the time. Because I'll tell my daughter, I'm like, gosh, I'm glad that we're not like that. That we haven't had the life that's brought us to be like so angry about everything.
Yeah. And ever since then, all she does is she smiles as she flips them off this time.
I
It's
do.
just it's much nicer.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And one of the wonderful things about spirituality to me is that there's this metaphysical part of it. There's the woo part of it, which I love. I think it's important. I think it's the best part of it. And then there's that part of we're all human, having a human experience, trying to like move through this reality that we're sharing with everybody else in the best way that we can. And that's hard. I mean, it's not always easy. Even if you're spiritual, even if you're centered and grounded and you have these things that keep you centered and grounded, we're going to have bad days. We're going to have days where we lose sight of that a little bit and lose sight of that centered and groundedness. And that's okay, right? We have to have grace for ourselves.
Yep.
Well, they say 2020 hindsight is easy, and I agree. However, what I'm trying to do now is to try to your point, try to see what the lesson in it is right away versus I can't believe this is happening to me, blah, 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 and then a year later go back and go, oh, I get it. So many things have happened to us that we find ourselves to be victims. And the fact is, we're never, if you're a victim, you're not learning from it. Instead, I'm not there yet, but I'm trying to, when something happens that is contrary to what I want to happen, to allow it to, I mean, at first I'm going like, oh my God, Jared, I can't believe it. But then go, okay, fine. I understand this is for a reason. I understand I need to learn something. What's the lesson in this? Right. And then try to find that lesson so that I don't have to go through that again. Because I found that the universe can be subtle or it can be not. And so the first time the universe tries to get you to learn something, it's going to go, hey, Will, I need you to learn this. Right? And then if I don't learn it, okay, it'll let me go. Second time it's going to go, hey, Will, I need you to learn this. Eventually, it's going to be a 2x4 to the head.
It's going to push you off the Roman Coliseum.
Yes, I actually, I broke my ankle on a 3-week European vacation on the second day.
Oh no!
Falling off of the very top of a Coliseum in
well, down the stairs. You didn't like
right. That would have been
amazing.
I would have broken.
Dang, you only broke your ankle.
That's right.
It'd be a much different story, right?
Yeah.
Right. And obviously the lesson is I need to slow down. Right before we went on this thing, the universe kept telling me, hey, chill out, slow down. You're doing too much. You need to relax. So that finally the universe says, oh yeah, here you go. Crack. Son of a. Okay. Eventually, I'm going to listen to it when it whispers. But I haven't learned that art yet. I got to wait for the 2x4.
You've learned it now because I don't want to pay more medical bills.
I know. That's a fair point. Yeah.
Yeah, that the idea of slowing down, we were talking about being present earlier, and it goes back to forget about being present for a minute and don't try to go all in on that. Just for if you could for a day, or half a day, think, what if I just slowed down? And when something happened, before I reacted to it, I just stopped for a second and thought about it.
The interesting thing is that the act of having a broken ankle and you having to carefully place your foot down at every step you take forces you to be completely in the present. Right. I was walking for 3 weeks down the cobblestone streets of Europe on crutches. I had to make sure that those crutches landed not in the crack of the cobblestones, but rather on the stones themselves. So I was hyper-focused on the now. And that, again, I hear you, universe. I don't need it again.
Tell him about the dude. Was it Buddha?
Buddha.
Yes.
All right. This is a little weird, so bear with me. Part of this European trip, we went on a cruise from Denmark and Copenhagen. We did the cruise on the fjords. The last port was Berlin, Kiel in Germany. And my ankle was broken. And most excursions, I went out in the town and I walked around a little bit to try to explore a little bit because I wasn't going to let our European vacation be spoiled just because I had a broken ankle. However, the last port I disembarked from the ship on was difficult. It was very hot and it was very far and
a lot of walking.
A lot of walking. It took me over an hour to get back to the ship after because my ankle was hurting and I had to come back by myself so that I wouldn't spoil their day. Go ahead and keep going. I'm going to go back. So when we got to Germany and we were about to disembark, I was already starting to feel the ankle and I was like, you know what? You guys go. I'm going to stay on the ship. So they went because there was a lot of walking there too, especially. But so then I just sat and read my book in the back of the ship in the Lido deck where they have a pool and they had a bar. And I was like, okay, perfect. I'll just drink my non-alcoholic beer because I was on pain meds, so I couldn't drink. Have my foot up on the chair and I'm reading my book, reading my non-alcoholic beer, whatever. I think it's a Heineken Zero or something like that. And as I'm sitting there, one of the servers comes around and he's looking at my foot really like interested in my ankle. And for some reason, he kind of started like asking me about, what happened? And I explained it to him. And as I'm explaining it to him, he's going around like poking. And I'm like, fractured ankle, it's broken ankle. Right? So he just says, too many passengers, or I'd help you with this. I was like, oh, sorry, too many passengers, too bad. Thank you for wanting to, but so he walks away. And I was like, dodged a bullet, go back to my book, continue reading. About 20 minutes later, he comes back with a little rock glass, about halfway filled with some sort of oil. And I was like, And he goes, I'm from Bali, he says. And in Bali, we don't go to the doctor for this. We do something called Balinese therapeutic massage. And it helps you to get the blood circulating back into your foot and he was showing me where my ankle, the blood was getting stuck and all that kind of stuff. That's what's causing some of the pain. So he says, if you don't mind, I'm happy to try to help you. And so at first I was like, you are out of your tree. Get away from me with that oil. You just hurt me just by poking at it. You're crazy. But then I stopped. Something made me stop and go, you know what? For 3 years, I've been doing this show and I've been learning about all kinds of different realities.
Holistic therapy.
Right. Not to mention the cancer thing, but that's another story. So let's go ahead. Let's give it a shot. Okay. And I said, please just be gentle. Gentle, he was not, but he went to town with this massage around my ankle and my foot. And I was like, like it was not a pleasant experience. It was actually very painful. And I kept reminding him that my foot was broken. So after, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 minutes of him like full on giving me a therapeutic massage, I thanked him very much. And he kind of showed me how to do it myself. And he said, put hot water on here. It's going to help. I'm like, okay, thank you. I was very relieved that he walked away. And as I put my foot, my foot was already up in the chair. About 10 minutes later, I had to pee really badly. So I put my book down. I grabbed my crutches. I stood up and I walked. It was a fair walk from where I was to the restroom. And on my way there, halfway there, I suddenly realized there's no pain in my foot at all. There's no pain at all. Instead, what I'm feeling is the blood rushing into my toes, which is something that I hadn't felt it had been 2 weeks. Yeah. Been 2 weeks. Wow. And I had been not a single minute of pain-free moments did I have up until that time. So when I got back from the bathroom, I started looking around for him to thank him. Like, oh my God, I don't know what you did, but it feels amazing. I looked everywhere. The guy's name was Budia. And I couldn't find him anywhere. So I started asking other servers, hey, where's Budia? I need to talk to Budia. And they're looking at me like cross-eyed, like, Budia? What's Budia? What the heck? I've never heard. No one had heard of Budia. So I sat down in my chair afterwards and I'm like, what the heck just happened? And all of a sudden, this peace came over me, and I looked up at the universe, I looked at the sky, and I started tearing up because I see what you did. Whether he's a real person or not, you just sent an angel to me to show me how to take care of my foot. And since that, I've been doing that massage, and whenever I do that massage, it relieves the blood blockages, and it eases the pain. Unbelievable. The entire rest of the cruise, I looked for this guy, never found him, never found him again. So make your
That's
own,
wild.
jump to your own conclusions.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah, long one. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's well told, well told. No, and that means that something inside of you was open to the universe, like we were talking about. It's something was there, and you good things happen. I mean, I always tell people, good things will happen.
Yes. You're right that I opened myself up at that time. At first I was resistant, and then something said, no, remember. And I went, okay, let's give it a shot. And I don't know if I was thinking about the nut at the time or what, but something made me open up, and it was good. So, yeah.
So one thing that I typically bring up is I'm big on like people kind of trying to find what their higher purpose is, their dharma, and like live that and kind of align it with their life. Do you guys have any, as you've talked to so many people and you've had your own experiences, what's your experience with like people living their higher purpose and like kind of being in their dharma?
I think sometimes people are so caught up in trying to find out what their higher purpose is that they don't see it there right in front of them.
Okay.
Whether it's, we say that we're the messengers, we help spread the messages to people. I think part of my purpose is to spread love,
Right.
just to love on everybody. But I think sometimes when you're looking for something, you're always going to be looking for it. So I think you need to just kind of take those moments, whether it's the meditation, and just let it come to you, and just what you are called to do. You'll feel it, and it'll be natural, and you probably won't even notice that that's what your purpose is.
Yeah, it's a very enlightened route, I think, to trying to find it. Let it come to you. You don't, it's just going to be there.
Yeah.
I think it was junior high school. I was forced to read Zen and the Art of Archery, and I hated it at the time because I was 13 or whatever it was, and you just take like the whole thing was the archer draws back the bow and just waits and never releases the bow until he knows the moment is right. And so it was just a matter of just sitting there and waiting. And eventually, once you are at Zen, now, and you release and it hits the bullseye. And I thought that was the biggest bunch of bull crap I had ever but now I get it. And it's not just about releasing a bow. It's about the timing. You're only going to learn the things that you're ready to learn. So as you go through life, knowing that the perfect example, I've wanted to astral project almost my entire life. Never have, but I've always wanted to. And I've read all the books. I did all the exercises. I've done everything. All the interviews I've done with people. I'm like, how do I leave my body? Never been able to do it. Over the course of the last 4 years, what I've learned, I should probably say, that was the last year maybe, I've learned that I'm not ready. And actually the act of me trying to push it so hard is what is preventing me from being able to accomplish it. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to be Zen in the art of astral projection. So eventually, whenever I'm ready, it will happen. And maybe it won't happen this time around, and I've got to be okay with it. I'm not there yet, but I'm working my way towards being okay with it. And that's when you're talking about just letting it come to you. Eventually, if I ever am ready, it will come to you. And then we talked about people who said sometimes the act of seeking a thing like that is what prevents you from doing it, but it will not come to you because it's just a gimmick. You don't need to astral project to know your truth. If astral projection is what's going to get you to advance your dharma, then that will happen. But if that's not your dharma, you have to be okay with it not being what you're meant to do and just go with it. So a lot of times people, Karen mentioned we're messengers. A lot of people, we come on people's shows or we'll have people on our show and they'll ask us, well, what are your gifts? What do you do? Well, I'm not psychic. I'm not, I do Reiki, but I'm not superly gifted. I'm not, nothing like that. I feel my dharma this time around is a messenger, is to help others
Sure.
get these messages out, but also to help others get the messages that they are meant to receive. And that's
Right.
an incredible gift to know, to understand. This time around, I'm a messenger, and I'm okay with that because it is something that's very much needed right now, especially in the days in these times. We need these messages. We need to learn. People need to feel, to Karen's point earlier, that it is normal, that it's okay. Things that you're experiencing is not something to freak out about. It's not something to feel that you're weird about. It's actually more and more people are awakening now than ever before, and it's exactly in time. And in fact, it's going to come a point in time, I firmly believe, that those who don't feel as normal are going to be in the minority. And I can't wait for that day. I can't wait for that
Like
day.
that show Extraordinary.
Yeah, well, I don't want to be that one girl that doesn't have
Yeah,
the Extraordinary is a show from Ireland that everyone in the world has a superpower, except for this one girl. So,
That's I would read that book. I would watch that show.
yeah,
I'm
It's fun.
gonna check that out.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's fun.
it's a good show. It's fun.
Out of all the stuff you guys have seen on your show, all the people you've had on, what do you think? What's your favorite show? What's your favorite guest?
Oh my God! You know the whole cliche about you make me choose between my kids.
You can't pick a favorite child. Yeah.
When we first started, I think some of my favorites were the freaky paranormal ones, not the scary ones. We've never really been into the scary things.
Right.
For me, the one that really caught my attention early on was this guy who is in the backwoods of Australia because he's hiding because he doesn't want people to find him. He has spent 20 plus years analyzing recorded speeches and finding reverse messages.
Oh wow.
And he played a bunch of them on our show for us, and it is astounding. His whole preface is that we speak to each other on two levels. The way we're speaking to each other now with our words is one, but then the words we choose, the inflection we use, the rate of speech in which we speak to each other is very purposely chosen, because then the second level is a subconscious level. We're speaking to each other in reverse. And so he records all kinds of speeches and conversations and spends his time finding these messages, because apparently we can't lie to each other in reverse speech. So he played messages of a couple arguing with each other, and he played it in reverse, and we heard what they were actually saying to each other as the truth, but they were hiding when they were speaking to each other with speech. It was mind-blowing. It was incredible. I loved it. So that was interesting for me at first. Now the stuff that really floats my boat is the stuff that helps me to gain my spirituality, my practice stronger. Like we just had Taraku Day, who gave us these incredibly practical things, exercises to do to help you with your focus and your meditation and things like that. That kind of stuff is what really buzzes me now. What about you?
I think it's kind of changed a little bit too, but one of my first ones that impacted me was Jonathan Robinson.
Oh yeah.
So this guy he interviewed Mother Teresa. He learned to meditate with the Dalai Lama. He's met Ram Dass, just incredible.
Oh, wow.
And he's a brilliant, I think he's a psychotherapist.
He's a therapist. Yes.
And he's currently working to help people with PTSD, but he was just so matter of fact and joyful, and it was a really fun interview, super interesting. So if you do listen to our podcast, you might want to check that one out. And then
there's two, not the MDMA, although that one was good too, but the first one, that was
Sure.
And then, but I think the one that struck me the most was probably with the Judah Collective, with the channeler. And she channels this collective of 350,000 angels. And it was kind of like, what's this going to be like? And the minute she started channeling, I started crying. It was weird.
Did I mention she's an angel on earth?
It was there was a connection.
So we identified as she was part of that collective, and that's why she was immediately touched, because it was like she said, she felt like she was home.
Right.
There was a familiarity.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Yeah, I've had moments like that through my journey where you just feel kind of like, oh, this is so natural for me. This feels so, I don't know. It's almost ineffable, right? There's almost no word for it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
very true. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no, go ahead. I think you were.
And just that. And it's interesting now because every once in a while I'll feel like a little bit of loneliness for that.
Nostalgia.
Yeah.
Like
it's
you miss
it's
home.
weird. It's interesting how you just don't know how things are going to affect you. You just, and the thing is, when we have interviews, Will study the person that we're talking. He'll like read their bios and see what they do. And I never do any of that. I don't even usually know their names when we come into the interview. So just so that, so I'm like the audience, so I ask the questions that I think, someone who has no idea who this person is would ask.
Yeah.
So I was not expecting that at all.
It's great. So I introduce the guests and say, okay, go.
Yeah, but it's nice because we get to get both sides of the coin with the questions that we ask in that manner.
And we do it because I don't know if you can tell from the interview, but we like to laugh a lot. And so we enjoy talking with each other, and we enjoy talking to you and our guests. So we do it in a way where it's not, we don't take it so seriously. So many shows on this topic are like so serious and the gravitas. And, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And though we take
stuff.
the topic very seriously, we position it or we present it in a way that's just more fun to listen to because it's just a conversation. And just like when you're in your living room, you talk about stuff, you go, "What? Oh my God, that's great!" Right? We just laugh and have fun with it. So and I think that's what sets us apart because we're just different that way, and we love it.
It's funny because we're different, but we're more the same. Maybe we were different from different podcasts, but more like regular people sitting in their living rooms talking to people.
Right.
Sure.
And I think that makes us a little bit more relatable.
Yeah.
That's what we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
There's a big lesson there to just to have joy in your life, have fun.
Yes.
Because I feel like if we're not having fun, then like we're so lost. I mean, even when I was in Afghanistan and I was there for 6.5 years, and
Well, thank you for your service,
Thank
first
you,
of all.
yeah.
oh yeah, thank you. But our unit always had fun. We did dark things, and it was a bad place, but like we still managed to always find time for ourselves to have fun. I think there was something deeply spiritual about that, even though I
there
didn't
is.
see it at the time. There was.
I think joy is the closest thing you can to God.
Yeah.
Joy and love, yeah.
Joy and love.
Yeah.
Well, when you're in love, you have joy.
Yeah. It's definitely that divine thing. And loving kindness, it's definitely a guiding light that I think we should all embrace. And one thing I've seen from you guys, I've when I was reading through some of your stuff and watching some of your stuff, is like you talk about raising the vibration of the planet, and that's loving kindness, right? That's
And I think that is ultimately why we do what we do.
right.
We are here to help raise the vibration of the planet. We're here to help the consciousness of humanity to rise, not by saying, "Oh, we are the best."
That sounds so lofty.
I know.
We're here to raise.
We're these great spiritual teachers. Not at all. Not at all. In fact, I am just some bozo who knows nothing about this stuff, who is learning. And so then our audience is learning with us as we go. We're evolving together. And by doing that, when we're all learning together, we're all putting our consciousness in a place of learning and upward and joy and love and happiness. We are automatically raising each other's consciousnesses. So as you listen to our show, we're hoping that your consciousness rises as you're listening, because we do it with that in mind. That's the mission of the show, from soup to nuts.
Yeah. That is a pure thing. We've had your podcast link scrolling in our ticker this whole time.
Oh, thank you.
Is there anywhere else that you'd kind of like to direct people to or tell people about so that they can kind of find you guys and connect with you?
I mean, really, that ticker you've got on the website is it's kind of a one-stop shop place. You can listen to the show or watch the show there. You could subscribe on your favorite podcast player through the website. You can connect with us on social media through the website. You can send us email or voicemails. Sometimes we play voicemails from our audience on the show.
That's fun.
Directly from the site. You can. We have a member. It's completely free. We call it the Inner Circle. That some of our past guests offer discounted services and things like that for our inner circle. You just have to sign up, but it's completely free. We get no money from our past guests. That's not what we're here. That's not where we're doing it. We're doing it as a way for us to connect people because we're introducing all these cool modalities. Well, here's a chance for you to experience it without having to pay a lot of money, because what if it doesn't resonate with you, right? So this is a way for you to experience different things. We do giveaways and all that kind of stuff. So really, and we've got the links to join the inner circle directly on the website. It's really, really, truly a one-stop shop place for us.
Awesome. Is there anything we missed that you want to tell the audience that you'd like to say?
Oh gosh, I don't think that there's anything we missed, but I always just like to say, just feel the love and try to spread it. Even if it's, just telling one person that you like their shirt. That might make their day. You don't know what they're going through. So just be kind and spread the love.
That's beautiful.
It really is. Have you mentioned that she was an angel on there? And of course, my last message is grounded in the ego, and that is, we love hearing from people. We are very social folks. So if you listen to this or you watch this and you feel like connecting, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to become a member, we'd love to hear from you. In that inner circle, there's a way for us you can interact with us as well as with each other. So just come say hi.
Yes.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I encourage people to do that as well. Go be a part of that community. Check it out. It's important to go talk to other people about stuff. You don't have to go through all this by yourself. That's
Definitely.
Really important message.
Definitely. You are not alone, my friend. You are
Absolutely.
not alone by a long shot.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate everybody watching. Obviously, we're going to have our show next Friday, same time. We're going to have guest co-host Dean Graves. He's a consciousness researcher, podcaster, just like you guys, and he's a mental health counselor. So, guys, everybody check in next week. If you guys will stick around for just a second, we can say goodbye after we're not live here. But
sounds good.
All right, guys. Until next week, we'll see you.